Hi, here I start the third part of the connective tissue. Here I'm going to talk about different types of the connective tissue. Here we have got two groups of the connective tissue. The first group is the connective tissue proper, and also it is grouped in two classes: embryonic connective tissue and adult connective tissue. Embryonic connective tissue is found in the embryonic period, and the adult connective tissue, you can find this type of connective tissue in the body of the adult persons. So these types are loose or areolar connective tissue, dense or regular connective tissue, a dense regular connective tissue, and the reticular connective tissue. In addition to connective tissue proper, here we have got the specialized connective tissue. Here, connective tissue undergoes some change and then it converts into another tissue like the cartilage, bone, and blood. A specialized connective tissue or a special connective tissue including the adipose tissue, cartilage, bone, and blood. So here you have learned adipose tissue or fat tissue, cartilage, bone, and blood are type of specialized connective tissue. Actually, in the base, these tissues are connective tissue, and then they undergo some change and form the special form of the connective tissue. I said in the adult person we have got different types of the proper connective tissue. One of those connective tissue is loose or areolar connective tissue. Here we have got less fibers and more cells, and between cells and the fibers we have got lots of spaces or cavities, so we call that areolar means a loose connective tissue with lots of cavities or spaces. And this type of connective tissue is most dominant type of the connective tissue, and you can find this type of connective tissue under the epithelium, where the epithelium is connected to the underlying layers or structures by the loose connective tissue. So in brief, in the loose connective tissue we have got less fibers, less collagen, elastic, and the reticular fibers, and here we have got more cells. A dense connective tissue is a type of connective tissue which is known by the more collagen fibers, and here we have got less cells, and most of the cells in the dense connective tissue is the fibroblasts. Also, the dense connective tissue is divided into two types. In the other words, a dense connective tissue has got two subtypes: regular dense connective tissue or irregular one. In the irregular, why we call that regular? Because in the regular connective tissue, like the tendon, in the tendon we have got the regular type of the dense connective tissue. The collagen fibers are arranged in the same manner, the same directions, and they are not irregular, they are regular. So we call that the regular dense connective tissue. In opposite side we have got the irregular dense connective tissue. Here collagen fibers are bundled are in different are located in different manner in different directions, and you can find the collagen fibers in the wavy form, and where we have got these type of the connective tissue in the dermis. Dermis is is a part of the skin under the epithelium or the epidermis of the skin. We have got the connective tissue. Which type of connective tissue? This type of connective tissue is regular dense connective tissue, which is just under the epidermis, and in general we call that the dermis. The reticular connective tissue. What is the reticular connective tissue? Here, in this type of the connective tissue, we have got the reticular fibers. Here you can find mostly the reticular fibers. You know, reticular fibers are type 3 collagen fibers, and these fibers in the reticular connective tissue are produced by reticular cells. You know, reticular cells are kind of fibroblasts, and then reticular connective tissue forms a scaffold or framework or backbone or a skeleton for some organs like spleen, bone marrow, and lymph nodes. So in general, we can say reticular connective tissue is a kind of supportive connective tissue. In the embryonic period, also we have got special type of the connective tissue. In general, we call them the embryonic connective tissue. Here you can see two types of the embryonic connective tissue. Mucous connective tissue. This type of connective tissue is found in the umbilical cord. You know, in the umbilical cord we have got the arteries and the veins. These blood vessels connect the embryo to the placenta, and around these blood vessels we have got some jelly-like structure. This jelly-like structure is called the Wharton's jelly. Wharton's jelly is actually mucous connective tissue, and in this type of connective tissue we have got the more ground substance. So here ground substance is more than the other component of the embryonic connective tissue. The other one is mesenchymal connective tissue. In this type of connective tissue, which is in the embryonic body, this type of connective tissue is composed of some cells. Which cells? Mesenchymal cells. You know, mesenchymal cells are type of stem cells, and these cells are multi-potential stem cells. It means these cells are able to differentiate into different cell types. Here you can compare the mesenchymal connective tissue and mucous connective tissue between in the embryonic connective tissue. You know, adipose tissue is one of the specialized connective tissue. Actually, adipose tissue in the base or basically is connective tissue. It has got some change, and then it turns into the special type of connective tissue. We call that adipose tissue. Here we have got two types of the adipose tissue: white or unilocular adipose tissue, and the brown or multilocular adipose tissue. What is the white adipose tissue or unilocular tissue? The color of this type of adipose tissue is the yellow. White adipose tissue is composed of the adipocytes. When I say adipocytes, it means fat cells. Inside each fat cells in the white adipose tissue, we have got only one fat droplet. A droplet which is filled with the fatty acids and the lipids, and there is no membrane around that droplet. In adult person, all of the fat tissues or adipose tissues are the white adipose tissue, and you can find this type of the white adipose tissue throughout the body, and except in the eyelid and in the external ear. During tissue processing, the fat droplet is washed out, and then you can see the adipocytes like the empty spaces. And there is just one nucleus on one side of these empty spaces. So, under the light microscopy, fat cells or adipocytes are empty cells with a nucleus which is just on one side of the cells, and here we have got just a thin layer of cytoplasm which is the around the droplet. About the adipogenesis, how adipocytes are formed from the mesenchymal cells. Mesenchymal cells start the differentiation, and first of all they form a type of cells, we call them lipoblasts. Then lipoblasts differentiate more and forms the brown adipocytes or white adipocytes. If you look at this diagram, here you can see the brown adipocytes. Brown adipocytes have got lots of the fat droplets, and also the nuclei of these cells are located in the central of the cells. And in the white adipocytes, there is just one droplet of fat, and then around this droplet you can find a thin layer of cytoplasm, and here you can see the nucleus is pushed out on one side of the cells, and you can find the nuclei in the white adipocytes just on one side of the cytoplasm. Here you can find some functions of the white adipose tissue. White adipose tissue is able to store the fat tissues, and also it is able to absorb the shocks or the traumas, and also it helps to preserve the temperature of the body. The other kind of the fat tissue or adipose tissue is the brown fat or multilocular tissue. As I said, inside the cytoplasm of fat cells in the brown fat, there are multiple or several droplets of the lipids. So after tissue processing, you can find several empty spaces inside the cytoplasm, and also here in the cytoplasm there are a high number of the mitochondria. So together these several empty spaces after tissue processing and high number of mitochondria give the brown appearance to the fat tissue, and so we call that the brown fat tissue or brown adipose tissue. And also cells have the eccentric round nucleus. Where we have got this type of the fat tissue, in newborn babies you can find this type of the fat tissue, and also in the hibernating animals, in the body of the hibernating animals which sleep during the winter, you can find this type of the fat tissues. And what is the role of the brown fat tissue? In the newborn babies, brown fat tissues prevents the losing of the heat of the body. So here I finished the third part of the third video of the connective tissue, and I hope you find it useful. Thank you.